Thank you very much, everybody, for watching us. It's our pleasure to be here in Voice 2021. My name is Daniel Cardona, head of marketing at Vozy, and we have our industry expert, CTO, and the brilliant mind behind everything that we do in Vozy, Ricardo Marin. We'll be talking about the three key insights in the voice tech, everything that we learned so far by implementing voice technologies and accelerating digital transformation initiatives among Latin American companies. We all know that voice technology has grown exponentially during the global pandemic. The voice channels were exceeded by the need of the customers to understand what was going on with their own situation with their particular customers. And as Gartner, Deloitte, and several others, consultants and industry reports has said, the pandemic was the catalyst agent of change for the digital transformation in Latam, most likely in Europe, which opened the door for voice technology to evolve the process of these industries. So within this context, Richie, can you please tell us, how do you see the landscape of the agenda of the digital transformation for most Latin countries, more specifically in voice tech?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, everybody that's watching us at Voice 2021. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, that's a really great question, Danny. Well, basically, what we have seen all over through all of these years that we have, tried to use conversational AI to impact customer services, we have found that voice technology had a lot of impact during the pandemic because a lot of these large companies and large corporations that had a lot of customer service calls or customer service, channels that used voice had a very big problem in their hands with their scalability. They needed to scale really fast and keeping that customer experience across all that evolution of their channel. Now, voice technologies were a huge part of that, enabling companies to scale that fast. And we, as Vozy, found that that whole pandemic really drove through a lot of that technology into the process, and we took a lot of advantages into that. We made a lot of big process to those companies, and yeah, it was really good, and it was really a really big growth that we have seen. Yes.
Do you think that by us, by understanding that if the customer is switching to voice channels to solve their issues, their most prompted issues, the one that are really need, like hot-headed, I need to solve, I need to know where can I get my vaccine, I need to fix my agenda. Who do you think are the industries that will benefit more from this technology looking forward 2-3 years from now?
Well, basically, what we found in this throughout this time is that the companies that needs a lot of human touch in their communications to their clients, they need to give a very good customer experience, that they need to attend the users in a very warm way, or they want to have a really good, how do you call that, voice experience with their clients. That's where voice technology is going to be being an enabler, a very really good enabler in this process. Because when you can have, what we have found is that when you can have a very neat and a very clean experience with the user, when you understand him very well, and when you connect these voice technologies with your own business processes throughout integrations, and with integrating those two systems, you can give the user a very clean experience and a very clean solution to their problems with a very few amount of interactions, therefore giving them a lot of value. So what I think is that companies, or large companies, that need to scale those conversations as well, those companies are going to have a very big impact with voice technology.
You're giving me a context that I didn't think of before, but I think the word customer voice experience, it's a coined term that we should definitely start like pointing us, or moving us forward. When I look at this, it's, how do you think a company should move towards how to stop thinking about customer experience basely and how to move to a more of experience or service focus through omni-channel, multi-channel strategies.
We have to understand that companies are aiming to not just be in one particular channel or in one particular place. They just want to be everywhere at all times. What they want is that when the user just raises his or her hand to for a requirement from them, they have to be anywhere basically. So the voice channel is really important between all the different channels that a company can have, and what we call customer voice experience is how we can improve the way that we are adding or giving value to a customer through the voice, and how we make it a memorable or very engaging experience. That said, at the end of the day, what we're going to try to build always is kind of a solution to the end user with the least amount of friction that he can have. That's the best customer voice experience. And to do so, what we usually think of is that we have to have a human agent or a human to give that experience. And through technology, what we have found is that we can do that we can deliver that similar experience to the end user and give him the best or the most amount of value in the least amount of time in a very scalable way. So that's something that we tend to care about a lot, which is giving the customer the best voice experience and the best possible solution to their problems through the voice channel.
One other thing that I think it's really powerful is that when we're talking about giving the customer a good, like proper experience, we have to talk about the back end of the process, right? It's how technology can facilitate and how can help the companies to deliver better experience to their agents, to their own workforce, in order for them to put their head and their own mindsets to helping and actually solving the customer issues.
Mhm.
How do you see virtual voice assistant in this particular process, not as in a front stage to the customer, but as in a back end process?
What we at Vozy would truly believe that voice technology should be used to enhance the voice of the users inside companies in such a way that we can do it in a very scalable way. And what I mean by that is that we envision our virtual assistant right now or in the foreseeable future as kind of a first entry point in a kind of an inverse pyramid of customer service, where our voice assistant is going to be at the front end and as an endpoint to their users, connected them with business processes inside the company. That way, our voice assistant will deliver that value to the user in a very efficient way, and in a very scalable if it is connected with the business process. And also, the next layer of that pyramid is going to be human agents, where basically those human agents are going to be very few, but they're going to be in terms of quality and in terms of the way they attend the user are going to be very specific. And what we believe that Lily or our virtual assistant is going to do on that backend or in that human interaction is that going to be kind of like an auditor, or maybe not an auditor, but maybe like a counselor. She's going to be there listening to the conversation between the human and the human agent, and is going to be helping the human agent to deliver more value to the human user. Maybe going to the back end of the business process, bringing information and showing it to the human agent so he can have a more detailed data of the end user. Is going to do some sentiment analysis. Is going to do some keyword analysis where she can or Lily can understand very well what's happening in the conversation and can deliver kind of an analytics on that set and help the human agent to deliver more value to the human user. That's where we envision our virtual assistant going forward in the future. Basically, and just to recap, as I mentioned, be able to have her or the assistant having as an endpoint taking requests, the most massive request, the most volume of the communications being done by the virtual assistant, and then to those specific processes that need to be attended by a human agent, then Lily is going to be a helper or a right hand where she can deliver more insights on the conversation so the human agent can deliver more value to the human user.
Talking about numbers, we found recently in an industry report that we did with the companies that we work for that 60-70% of the time that an agent pass on a call, he's actually writing stuff in their systems and not attending to customers. So I think it's huge the value that we can provide towards the technology and accelerating our way to interact better with the user, to stop the task that robots should do instead of humans and let humans, like you said, enhance their work and enhance the customer experience. One last question is, how do you see the Latam startup landscape with the immersion of new technologies in the market, and how do you see us to close the innovation gap between traditional companies and how startups are merging or are actually delivering value to this particular set of companies?
Basically, we have been through when we started this AI kind of approach to voice back in 2018. We were in a point in time where industries were starting to adopt new technologies and using startups as their point their provider to try to enhance those technologies inside the company to evolve their processes. And as you mentioned before, the pandemic just accelerated that a lot. And therefore, right now, what I'm seeing is that a lot of those companies are more open to bring those startups in and try to help them solve particular problems. Now, before they were just doing that in a very controlled way with very specific early adopters that they were knew that they were going to be adapting very well to those new processes with new technologies. But now they're just rolling it out to everybody at the same time. So therefore, it's creating kind of like a virtual circle where new companies are getting a lot of exposure because they're getting a lot of exposure to the users, and as well, large companies are seeing that they need to move faster, and startups are a really good way to do so. So in that case, I think it's really great. I mean, it has changed a lot of things, and for us as well. I mean, in our case, I think that we have evolved a lot through all this time, and I think digital transformation is just really sticking in and just getting a lot of attention right now.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that answer. I want to close with one thing, and it's what we found so far is that companies are thinking that they need to optimize all the digital assets. So they need to optimize their website. They need to optimize their marketing automation tools. They're actually trying to optimize everything into their what they consider the digital landscape. And what we found is that almost 70 to 80% of the customers that we talk to or the prospects that we talk to does not have the voice channel as a digital asset to transform and to enhance it. So they're running their technologies with IVRs from 10 years ago, from systems that were supported from a very different type of technology that we're currently in. So my last thought on this, and I want to listen to what you have to say about this, is that if you think about like omni-channel strategies or providing just a better communication experience for the customer, our natural way of communicating is voice, and we need to provide we need to raise the voice and said make a stand for the interaction that your users are having with your brand within the voice, it's the best conversation and the best story that you can get is the story that your customers are telling you throughout those channels. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, not only the voice is our most natural way of communicating, is the most efficient way. Basically, it's harder to tap into a message through any kind of text messaging rather than doing it through the voice. A lot of text channels include that voice channel within them throughout what we call voice notes. And therefore, what we believe is that voice is going to take over a lot of those channels and a lot of the new or what people call, I mean, what we will call social media channels. And that's basically something that we really look forward to explore. And as well, through more traditional channels, which are phone channels, which are more traditional, mm, always have been seen as a channel that is very difficult technical wise to automate. But now what we have found is that technology is at that point where we're going to be able to automate almost all of that channel the way we automate those text channels, basically in the same way. Now, what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build is a system or a platform that can enable a company to be omnichannel with that means of communicating, which is the voice. Even if it is a traditional channel, or even if it is a social media channel or a new text channel that includes voice. What we are trying to do is enable those companies to be in those channels as well. Because as I mentioned before, company needs to be everywhere at all times. That's what omni means in omni-channel, being everywhere at all times through all channels. And the best way to do that is to do it and to do it in a scalable way is basically automating all those input processes or outbound processes through those channels. And what we're building is that automation through that means of communication, which is voice that can be in all those channels at the same time.
Awesome. Richie, thank you very much for the conversation. I think there's a lot to meet here to cut off. I think what we find and what we discover or the road that we're going through, it's very interesting to see how the landscape is gonna change in the next foreseeable future. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for watching this. I hope you enjoy Voice 2021. It's gonna be a great event to share the panelists. I hope we see you. We will be there physically, I hope. If not, you can hit us virtually, and you can find Richie on LinkedIn, Ricardo Marin. He's always posting really interesting things about technology and several other stuff. So have a good one. Let's head to vozy.co. That's VOZY, and I'll hope to see you there. Any last thoughts?
Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy Voice 2021.